Hello and welcome back. In today's section, we continue with Git and GitHub section 4. Before now, we've had three different sections on Git and GitHub. If you missed out on that, I will advise that you watch those sections first before moving on to these. So you can check the description section or just click on the card above. All right, let's get started. So let's start by opening up the project that we've been working on to represent to practice Git and GitHub, right? CD, which means change directory, into learn Git, right? So from here we can open this in our Visual Studio Code dot. Then, all right, this is opened. So what we want to do today, we've done some things like I've mentioned. We just want to pick up from there. So if I do Git status, I want to believe you know what Git status is now. So everything is clean, nothing to commit. So, but in this particular section, we want to, like I've mentioned, we want to look at Git branch, right? Git merge, and also making pull requests. So more like working with branch when it comes to branches, when it comes to Git, merging branches, right? When it comes to Git, and making pull requests when it comes to Git. So you might not really understand those terms and all that. So the first thing I want to do is let's first of all get to understand what a branch is, right? What merging a branch is, how to create a branch, how to check out from a branch, those basic things that you do with branch, right? Then also how to merge a branch. Then we'll look at how to make a pull requests. So without wasting time, let's check Git branch, right? Git branch. So it's very basic. These are just the things I will cover, right? A Git branch is essentially a separate line of development within a Git repository, right? And when it comes to a branch, it's usually, how will I put it now? It's usually unique, right? It's independent from other branches that you have. So a branch is always independent of the main branch or other branches that you have, meaning that whatever you have going on in a branch, right, does not affect what is going on in another branch. So that means that I can have a branch and other persons contributing on a project can also have their home branches, right? Maybe I'm working on login feature, right? I can have a branch called login branch. Someone else working on notification can have a branch called notification branch, right? So whatever I'm doing inside login branch does not affect what is going on inside notification branch, does not affect what is going on inside the master or the main branch. So that's what I mean by branches are actually independent. So this allows us actually to collaborate with others without necessarily interfering with what they are doing. At some point in time, we then say, okay, our work is ready. Let's merge, right? Let's merge our updates to a main branch, right? And other people also match their updates to that main branch. Then we now have a whole branch, right? That represents the whole project. But that main branch is now contributions from different persons, right? That worked on different branches. So I want to believe that that is clear. So it allows us to work on different versions of a project simultaneously, right, without affecting the main code base. Now, let me kind of explain that. So the first thing I want to show you here is if you want to check the current branch you are working on, right, you type this command git branch. So when you type git branch, it allows you to see the current it will list the current branch, right? And yes, it's going to list the current branches for you. So now it happens that I only have one branch, which is the master branch, right? So no other branches. But yes, the next thing is how do we create a new branch, right? How do we create a new branch? So if you want to create a new branch from this master branch, you will do something like git branch, right? Then the name of the branch. So let's say I'm working on login. I will say login, git branch, login, and you just enter. It has been created. Now, if I want to check what I have, right, you can now say git branch again, right? It's going to list it for you. You can see now that I have master branch and I have login branch. The active one, that is the one that is currently active, is going to be starred and colored green, right? Which is the master branch. So usually you will want to switch from between one branch, right, to the other. And one thing you must remember is that if I were to check login branch now and master branch, they are going to be the same content because the login branch is created from the master branch. So where the master branch ends now is where the login branch starts, right? If that makes sense, because the login branch is currently the exact copy of the master branch, but the login branch can move on, right, away from the master branch, and we can have new things in the login branch that the master branch will not have. So at some point you will need to update the master branch so that it becomes aware of what is going on in the login branch. So right now the login branch and the master branch are two separate independent line of the development, right? So, and that is a big one. So that's it. Now, the next thing is how can I make the login branch the active branch that probably I now want to work on? So you will do something like git, you just say git checkout, then you will say login. So git checkout, then the name of the branch you want to check out into. Now I'm saying check out into login, and I'll type enter. You can see now it says switch to branch login. If I do git status now or git branch, right, you see that the active branch has switched. Now the current active branch is the login branch. So I can now begin to do some things in the login branch, right? So for instance, if I come in here and let me just create another section, right? Let me just create another section. And I would say, let's say we are trying to design the login page here, right? So let's say we have heading 2, and this is going to just be login, right? Then we can say of course, if you are logging in, you will have input field, right? And let's say this is name. Okay, let's just say the name field here. Let's say is first name, or probably since this is login, let's say this is email, right? Then we can also say the type of this input field. Let's say it's email, right? Then of course, just something basic for testing. Now, here too we can have type of password, right? Then we can just say the name field. This name field attributes is for password. So I think that's basic enough. Now, if I come here, right, and do git status, you'll see that I have something new, right, which is an update to the index.html field, right? So like we've done in the previous sections, git add will move actually the update to the staging, right, where we can then commit it. So if I do git status again, I have this green, which means it has been staged. Now it's ready to be committed. So I now say git commit, right, -m, the commit message. I can say added login form, right? So that's it. So git status, nothing to add again. But now let's see this. If I now do something, don't forget that this is here now. This is the current branch here is login branch, and I already added this section. Now let's check the other branch just to confirm to you that these two branches are independent line of development, and whatever you do in one does not really affect the other. So let me do git checkout again. This time around, I want to check out to master, right? Now I'll switch the active branch, right, to master. If I do git branch, now I'm on master. If I do code dot just to see what is there, right, you see that there is nothing like login here. So what what happens is that the login branch has moved ahead of the master branch, right? So of course, we'll talk about merging updates and all that, but I just want you to be able to differentiate practically what a branch means, right? And how different branches will not affect one another in terms of development line and all that. So that's what I wanted to talk about here. I've talked about creating a branch, right? I've talked about switching a branch and the code for that. Okay, so I've not talked about merging branches. So one thing I also have to tell you is that whenever you create a Git repository, right, especially the remote repository, there is a default master branch or the main branch, which represents the main line of development. That is that's very, very important. So let me just do something briefly. So I will just go to GitHub, right? Let's go to GitHub just to demonstrate this properly. Okay, I will switch to the account I want to use for this concept first to mastery. All right, so this is what we had the last time, right? Learn Git. So what you will notice here is that I have one branch by default here, and that is the master branch. And that is what you get, right? The first time you create your repository. So it's named master or main, and that represents your main line of development. So you can now create other lines of development. For instance, now I have created another line of development, Git branch, which is the login, right? And if I do Git checkout now, let me check out back to login, Git checkout login. Right now I'm on login. I have some updates that I want to push, right? If I do Git push origin, so this is how you actually push your updates, right, to the remote repository. So the question now is, which branch do I want to push? Because I have two branches. I have the master branch, I have the login branch. So I want to push the login branch because it's now a new line of development, right, that I'm not done with. So I'll just say Git push origin login, and that will push that update for me, right? So now it's pushed. If I come back here and refresh this page, we should now have two branches, right? So can you see now I have this here? This is the new branch. And if I come back here, come back to, no, not there. So if I come back here, so you can see now that I have two branches, right? I have two branches, and it's already telling me that login add recent pushes, right? So I have two branches here now. And if I click on it, you see that it's going to tell me I have a master branch and the login branch. So the login branch is independent of the master branch and is currently even ahead of the master branch, right? So later on, I will tell you what you can do with the login branch and how you will actually make a pull request to actually compare and review and do all that, and then later match whatever feature is in login with the master. So, but I want to be sure that that is already clear. So branches are actually lines of development which are independent of each other, right? And you can actually do things that are separately different from other branches in the particular branch. And when you are done, then you can now merge them together. So what we want to look at next is merging branches, right? So this is just a basic way to demonstrate things. Now I have two branches. I have the master branch, I have the login branch. So, and I've shown you already that the master branch does not have what is contained in the login branch. So login branch. So what if I'm done with the login? Let's assume I'm done with the login branch now. And now I want to merge that update, whatever is contained in the login branch with the master branch. So just do Git checkout again, right? Git checkout master, so that we make the master branch active. So if I do Git branch now, the master branch becomes active. Then I can do Git merge. Git merge. So the next thing is, what branch do you want to merge, right? Git merge. What branch do you want to merge? So the branch I want to merge is the login branch. we'll still talk about conflicts and conflict resolution in subsequent videos, because when you are trying to match, there could be conflict. So, but right now, I don't think there should be conflicts at the moment. So git merge login. So you can see that this has been done. So now whatever I have in the login branch has been merged into the master branch. And if I do code dot, just to open that afresh, so you see now that in the master branch, I now have the updates that I have in the login branch, right? So I want to believe that two things have been clarified now, that branches are independent line of development, right? And that whatever updating you have in one can be merged with the other. So this allows different developers to work on different features and then collaborate and bring whatever they've done together into a common base when they are done. So that's it with creating a branch, right? Switching branches, and then merging a branch. And I'll show you the commands. To create a branch, you just do git branch, right? Then the name of the branch. To switch between branches, you use git checkout, then the name of the branch you want to check out into. Then to merge a branch, you use git branch, then the name of the branch, right, you want to merge to. Now, another thing that I want to just mention here is there is a shortcut for doing both. So let's say I want to also work on the registration. I want to also create a branch for registration, right? Instead of just login. So that will be another branch. I might say git checkout. So instead of saying git branch, then registration, which is good, right? So I might do it, I might combine the two steps together. Git branch will create a branch, but then I will now need to go git checkout, right, in order to check out into that branch. But I can also do it with one command. So that will be git checkout -b registration. So this is two steps combined together. This is going to create the branch. -b means for a branch. It's going to create a branch called registration. Then it's going to check out into it immediately. So if I try that now, you're going to see that. So see now, switch to a new branch. And if you do git branch now, registration should be the current one. So now we have 3 branches in whole. And don't forget that the remote is not aware of the new branch we just created. If you want to push it again, you just do git after committing your updates, you do git push, right? Origin. Then you make sure you push registration branch, right? Registration branch. And that's how you work around this. Let's move on to something else. All right, so we are clear with this slide. Let's check, okay, use cases. I think I've already mentioned that. Developing new features, right? Use cases for branches. So if you want new features, usually you create a new branch that will act as separate line of development for that feature, right? So developing a new feature, fixing bugs. There are times that you've deployed something before and now in production, they've discovered that there is a bug somewhere. You can create a branch, right? And name it with a name relating to that bug, and to just be a branch for quickly fixing a bug. Experimenting with ideas, right? Creating different versions of a project. So you might want to work on a different version of the project entirely, which maybe version 2, and you just create a branch, right, that represents that line of development. It's important that you understand why you will need to create a branch and the use cases. That's why I had to quickly explain some of these things and also demonstrate them. So I've also talked about git merge, right? Integrate changes from one branch into another. And I've also demonstrated that when I merge update from login into the master branch, right? So it allows you to combine histories of 2 branches, incorporating the changes made in the source branch into the target branch. So the source branch in our own situation, the example I gave is the login, right? Then the target branch was the master branch, which was the current branch that I was on. So use cases, feature completion. Again, I told you I assumed that I was done with the login feature. Now I wanted to merge it with the master branch, right? Which represents the main line of development for me. So means that if I am merging the login branch into the master branch, I'm assuming that things are completed. So feature completion, bug fixes, collaborative work, right? Those are the times you want to engage with merge, Git merge activities. So the next thing we want to look at is pull request, right? So, and I will approach this two ways. First of all, we are going to practice with the very project we are working on. So you can be working solo as a developer and still use pull requests, right? Just for practice now, and see you pull requests, create branches. You never merge update directly with your main line of development. You work from PRs and then you merge your updates when you are done. We'll go through that. Then the other side of things is when you now need to, you have 2 or 3 or more persons working on the same project, right? And you are collaborating with them. So when you work on your feature, you are not just going to go and merge directly. You make a PR. Somebody maybe somebody within the team is going to be reviewing your codes to be sure that it followed the expected standards and all that, right? And they are efficient and scalable and whatever measures, right? That ensures that your codes are well written. Somebody will be there to review it, then we'll merge. At times, there will be reviews. You will need to go back and do some reworks and push up this again and make another PR and all that. So we'll walk through those two sides of the coin. So without wasting time, we already have something that we've worked on, which is the login, right? And I've already pushed it. So this is a separate line of development. Now, if I want to, okay, what happened now is that even though I already merged my login, right, with my master locally, that has not happened on the repository here, right? So what I will do now is that you can see that it's telling me here to compare and make pull request. So what it's saying here is that I should compare this branch, which is the login branch, with another branch of choice. In my own case now, the master branch, which is the main line of development for me, right? So, and usually when you do that, if there is nothing to compare, it's going to tell you that there's nothing to be compared. If there's a conflict, it's going to flag it here, but you can see here, it's telling me able to merge, which means there is no conflict, right? So usually you will put a message here. I can just say feature, right? Fits, and I'll say added login form. So that's the title. You might put some descriptions here. Added login form. So if you did more things, right, you can itemize what you did there, just so that those who are collaborating with you understand what is going on. So once you are done with that, then you can now make pull requests. Before you make pull requests, you can also assign assignees. So because I'm the only one here now, there is no way I can assign people to review my updates and all that, right? So, but by the time I demonstrate the other scenario where you have 1 or 2 persons, you'll be able to assign somebody to review this, right? And you can also adjust some of the settings that nobody should be able to merge PRs, right? Without at least one person passing the review. So that's just what we have here. Now I'll just click on create PR request. Right, so that's going to create a PR for me, and you can see it now on this PR pull request tab. I have 1 PR, right? I'm not going to merge it, so I can merge it immediately now without anything, and it will be merged. You can see, and it's telling you wants to merge commit into master from me. So this is telling you that the main branch needs to be merged. The request is that the login branch be merged, right, into the master branch. And here too, you can check the number of commits. I have just 1 commit here. At times you might have 4 or 5 commits before you make the PR, right? File changes, the things that change. At times too, if you are reviewing, right, as a developer, these are some of the things you are looking out for. What was added? So you check that nothing, it's written in the best style, right? And it follows the right standard. And if it is okay, you can say review changes. So you can leave comments here, right? You can approve. So I'll just approve. So, but since nobody is even on this, nobody is actually a reviewer, right? So we'll just leave this. I'll just say can be merged. right? Just say submit review. So if you really want to get comfortable with working, collaborating with others, you just test, do this, you practice using this first, right? Then you can start doing other things eventually. So that's just it. Here I will just say merge pull request. So confirm merge. Right. So once the login branch has been merged, you can delete the branch, right? If you want to push it again, fine. Usually I'll delete the branch so that we don't have too many branches, right? Plug in here. But there are other times that you will not delete the branch. It does not change anything. And if you want to revert to, for whatever reason, you can click here to revert. But right now, the master branch is now in sync with the login branch, and that's the simple flow for making pull requests. And this is very direct because no one has been added to review, right? But when you have people added to review, it will be a different ball game entirely, right? So that's it with making pull requests. Just some few things to say about that before I wrap up this. A feature commonly used in collaborative software development projects, especially on platforms like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. So the purpose, right? Again, pay attention to that. You must know why you are doing whatever you are doing. A pull request is a way to propose changes that you have made on a branch to be reviewed and possibly merged into another branch in a repository. And that's what I've just done now. I just did something on the login branch, right? And I make a pull request that it should be merged into the master branch. And I did that. So collaboration, it facilitates collaboration by allowing multiple developers to actually develop proposed changes, review code, and also make suggestions before merging. So this part is very, very important because you're not just going to be merging your update. Somebody will review it, like I said. Then workflow. Typically, a developer will create a pull request, just like you see me demonstrate, right? Create a pull request after completing the feature or a bug, then on a separate branch. Then the pull request then goes through the review process before the branch is merged. So if you get this, then that's the whole cycle of pull request. The more you practice, right, the more you know. But having that foundation clear in your mind is very, very important. Yes, when it gets to GitHub, there are still many, many things to internalize, right? But just getting to know the right things as you get started is very, very important. The other things you can easily pick them up yourself. So I think those are the things I want to cover here. Let me see the codes I have here just to, okay, we've not done revert. So revert is actually for reverting the commit. I think I've done git log to show our commit history. What have I not used here? So git pull and git push, right? So I think I've demonstrated the use of git push origin. So this is used to push a branch, right, to the remote. Then at times you want to pull changes from the remote into the main branch. For instance, now, let's say I have a branch here, Git. Okay, I'm currently on registration, and the registration branch does not have what is contained in the login branch. I'm not sure if I've marked it before I created this branch. So at times you want to pull from the remote branch, right? Let's say git pull origin master, right? So if things are not up to date, it's going to pull the changes that you have from the master branch, and it's going to try to merge it with the registration. So two things are happening with git pull. It's going to actually pull the changes, then it's going to merge it automatically. So if it encounters a conflict, it's going to throw conflict. If I do that now, so you see that tells me it's up to date. So right now it didn't really pull in any changes, and I want to believe that it's because it's already up to date, right? So, but if you do have changes that we have in the master branch or in any of the remote branches that are not up to date, but that are not in sync with your local branch, you can easily pull updates from the remote, right, into your local branch and continue working from there. I will still demonstrate that eventually when I try to talk about conflict resolution in the subsequent sections to come. So I think those are the things I want to try. Git log, git push, git remote. So I think I've used majority of these commands. So I've not used this, right? So, but before I wrap up this, let me talk about clone, right? So cloning a repository is usually that is where you even, if you want to collaborate with others on a project, usually that's where you start from. And let me do it this way so that it will be clear also. Is simply clone. When you say clone, it means you are getting an exact copy of something, right? So for instance, now let's say this Learn Git is a project that we are working on, and I am a new developer, and I have been told to clone this project so that I can continue to contribute towards it, right? So the way you will do it is that you will click on this, you will go to the repository and you will click on this section. I'll click on SSH, right? Since I have SSH set up already, then you will copy this code, right? You copy this one, you just click on copy. Now you'll come to your terminal. So let me leave this one that we are using currently. I'll come to the desktop and you will just say, okay, this is on the desktop. I wouldn't want to create on the inside the desktop so that there won't be issues. Okay, let me just create cd mkdir. I'll just say others. For instance, now, no, mkdir. So I'm trying to create a folder called others, right? No, why do I keep having typo? mkdir, make directory. All right, so that particular folder has been created. I can cd into it, others, right? So currently now I'm inside that folder. I then want to clone, I want to clone this project. And don't forget that I've copied the URL here. I've copied the URL, right? So I can easily do git clone. Then you paste that URL. So this is just going to create, can you see now, cloning into this. So it's just going to create an exact copy of that. And you can seed into that learn Git, right? So right now, I can continue to work on this. I can open this and I can continue to contribute to it. That's how you clone a project, right? And you begin to work on it. Already, if I open this particular project or go to the folder, you see that it's an exact copy of what I have currently. Even with the Git changes and whatever updates that there are others, now you can see Learn Git, right? And everything that I have currently is there. So I can now create a branch of this and then push my changes and make a PR that it should be merged with whatever is, it should be merged with the current